You're chasing this version of like that growth into that full potential. So I tell people, create your future with your future, not your past. Create your future with your future vision of what you could do, who you could become with that identity that person would have versus the identity of the past.
Welcome back to the Real Business Owners Podcast. This is episode 139 with myself, Trevor Cowley. As always, Kale Goodman.
What's up, family?
I like that. Yeah. That was a change of pace. What's up, family?
That's right.
Yeah, there you go. Guys, today we have an amazing guest. Justin Prince is with us. Appreciate you coming on, especially on such a short notice. This individual is a very busy man. I call him Deep Pockets, is what I found out today at at lunch. I just had to find out where he lives. I'm like, oh, they should just rename that entire neighborhood to Deep Pockets. Yeah. So we're like, yo, we got to have Deep Pockets on the podcast.
I have a small house in the Deep Pocket neighborhood.
Hey, that's good. You know, you can go ahead and camouflage yourself.
That's
and
right.
People, hey, if we think you got deep pockets, roll with it.
That's
you
right.
know?
Well, how long have you lived in St. George?
A year and a half now, but we've only been in that home for like 6 weeks.
Oh, yeah, okay. Because, I mean, people were excited when you were coming into the gym. Like, you know, my trainer Jordan talking to Jason about you. And it's just kind of crazy how much business we end up doing or networking from the gym.
I know.
Right? Isn't that crazy?
Well, I think it's honestly because it's just like-minded people, especially when you're getting up at its early morning gym sessions, right? Because there's just a small group of those individuals that are actually willing to make that sacrifice. And usually those are the individuals that are operating somewhat at a higher level. So that's a perfect time to shake hands, network. Justin's the type of guy, I'm usually a quiet, shy guy in the gym.
Oh, geez,
Justin's the loud one, like yelling and screaming, pounding his chest. When he gets a sick pump, he takes his sweater off and you can see his veins in his arms. Yeah. I know you've seen it.
Dude, Trevor's that dude that I'm like, does this cat even work out here? Yeah. He just freaking yell at everybody the whole time.
You know, at the other
jawline's freaking sharp.
That's right.
Yeah, jaw day every day, bro. But at the old gym I worked out at, a few people called me Echo. They're like, we can always hear you before we ever see you. Like from around the corner.
Sure. If you're talking to anybody, you're just talking, dude. To just talking to just
true,
weights, you know?
Yeah. Well,
did we actually introduce him though? Did we?
Yeah, so Justin Prince is with us.
Okay.
Dude, I do want you to tell the individuals kind of what you do.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll just start kind of, you know, where you were born, how you grew up, what your family dynamic was like. Were you a great student? Because some successful people are terrible students. Some are great students, right? Like, I want to know kind of the whole story so that maybe somebody could relate to your story if you were a terrible student or you weren't, you know?
Yeah, the kind of quick backstory. I'm from Salt Lake City. My wife and I, we've been married now 19 years. We've got 4 kids, 17, 14, 12, and 9. So 2 boys, 2 girls. But raised my folks got divorced when I was 12. We moved 13 times in the 7 years, kind of through the teenage years. I lived at my mom, so I was kind of raised at my single mom's, but they were co-parenting. You know,
so when you were moving, was it distance or was it like we're just moving?
It was like
10
rental
minutes
to rental.
down the road.
Yeah, it was kind of like that. It was like rental to rental to rental.
Okay, gotcha. It was more of a rental situation.
Is
that because there were just financial struggles after that happened? It's just like the cheapest thing that we could get. We're booted here. Let's find the next cheapest thing or whatever. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I had no professional background. I have no college education. I worked at doing construction work as a little kid for my dad. My dad was in land development, home building.
Okay.
And so, like, literally as a little kid, like, for reals, like, 8-year-old kid, my dad would drop me off. This is like child labor laws. Hopefully he's passed the statute of limitations now.
But back in the day, it was legal. I think now you can't even.
Now you'd be toasted.
You can't even tell a kid to shut up without getting, like, the state coming down.
He would, like, drop me off at the construction site. I'm, like, seriously 8, 9 years old, 8 a.m., 8 or 9 in the morning, and then pick me up at 5 at night, give me a couple bucks, buy food from the food truck guy. I don't know how I didn't get, like, kidnapped or mugged or something. And I would I was what they call the gopher. I was a go for this, go for that, go for this, just throw stuff away. So it did teach me a lot about, I think it was the foundation of some of my work ethic and so on, just knowing how to work. At 21, I was introduced to sales. I worked at a mall kiosk selling animated Bible videos. So I tease people, I'm the dude at the mall. By the way, the mall, for all of your listeners, for their like actually younger.
Yeah, it's not what it used to be.
It's a place that all of us older people used to go when the Amazon was a river. We'd hang out at this place called the mall.
Yeah, and we used to hang out there for like 4 or 5 hours.
When we would like aimlessly walk around, there'd be these people that would like
down.
try and get your attention and suck you into their mall kiosk. I was the mall kiosk guy. You know?
Sweet.
I was the guy that would like make that long like way around the kiosk people. I was like, my God, that guy again.
So I'm saying that don't make eye contact with them. That was everyone avoiding
he's gonna
me.
sell me sunglasses. Like
That's
I don't
exactly
need
what
another
it
pair
is.
of Oakleys or whatever.
And
Did you slay it though?
I slayed it. Dude.
Yeah.
I slayed it. So sales, I'm a huge proponent of people learning how to sell. We kind of were just talking about this a second ago.
No doubt. But were
Selling
you
yourself.
super nervous, like getting that job, putting yourself out there, getting in front of people, or did you kind of maybe nervous for a day or two, but you kind of took to it like water really quickly?
It's so funny. My very first day, I sold 19 sets, which doesn't mean anything other than that was like crushing it. Like most people would sell 0 for their first day or 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So I sold 19. I was just slaying it. And sales is interesting to me. It's hard work, attitude, and skill sets. If you work hard enough in sales, you'll succeed just because like the law of averages will finally
100%.
kick in your favor. If you have a positive attitude, like you smile and you're happy and you're like upbeat and you make people feel good about themselves and you're just
energetic,
just positive energy,
the
you'll sell
vibration,
because they'll like you.
Yep.
Right.
And then lastly, if you learn skills, like you actually like fine tune and hone down the skills, dude, if you work hard and you have a good attitude and you hone down the skills, you can make $1 in learning how to sell, it can change your whole life. And so I did that with that door-to-door and at mall kiosks and so on. When I was 25 years old, I was introduced to my first kind of entrepreneurial venture. I was with a health and wellness company. I was distributing a natural product. And long story short, I became the number 3 earner for this company, the national spokesperson for this company. I was 25. I was in like every Barnes & Noble and Borders newsstands in the entrepreneur section.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was like, I'm the man. And then the company, the parent company went out of business. I was like, lost the brick and whole thing in one night. I was like, I'm not the man anymore. Starting over from scratch,
At least you didn't rest your hat on the fact that you were the man, because there are people that do reflect in their, man, back in the day, I used to,
still living the glory
I used to
days.
make a lot of money. I used to have a good credit score. I used to, right? There's a lot of people that would and maybe it's just the fact they don't have the energy to try to pick themselves up and after getting knocked down like that and try to get back into a fight and climb back to the top again, Like that says just a lot about your character in general, because there's a lot of I used to people out there that talk about what they used to do, which is scary because they're not focusing on what they could be doing. They're not focused on their future. They're still living in the past, right?
Yeah, I had grown man tears roll down my face when that all happened. It caught me in a weird financial situation. I had to kind of like burn through all my savings to build the business, and then right as I was kind of breaking out, like boom, it was toast. So I was back on credit cards, got me back on taxes. I was below zero financially. And there's a party that says, you know what, screw this entrepreneurial thing, screw this. I'm going back and getting a job.
Yeah.
And then there's another party that's like, that sucks worse. I'm not doing that. So,
either side sucks.
That's right. That's right.
So it's like, okay.
Yeah. I think it was Les Brown says, if you do what's easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what's hard, your life will be easy. Yeah. But you got to choose your heart a little bit, because you got to choose your suck a little bit. It sucks to be broke, and it sucks to work hard and have discipline.
Well, somebody here just asked me the other day, they're like, should I take the stairs or the elevator? And I said, when in doubt, choose the hard route.
Rhymes,
and they're like, oh, I like that. And I was like, I know, it just came off the top of my head. I feel pretty good about myself right now.
That's your next book right
so,
there.
Yeah, I've been waiting 3 days to say that on the podcast. So, no, I'm just kidding.
So what would you say are some of the most valuable skills? I mean, because I agree with you. If you're just a hard worker, you're going to make sales. If you got personality, you're going to make sales. But what are some of the most valuable skills that you think, especially because
have contributed to your success in
especially
general,
your
right?
industry? I mean, there's a lot of obstacles to overcome. You got to have some skills.
Yeah, I think the inherent skill is what they call the soft skills, which is like it's like learning to communicate with people, like the interpersonal skills, learning to smile, remember their names, speak in terms of their interests, ask good questions, listen. Most people are horrific listeners, and most people suck at questions. I tell people, if you'll upgrade the quality of your questions, you'll upgrade the quality of your life, because your brain is wired that it cannot not answer a question. And I don't mean that to sound like a double negative sentence, but literally, your brain cannot not answer questions. Check this out. Tell me if you answer these questions. Are you tall or short, fast or slow? Would you rather read a book or watch a movie? Would you rather travel or stay home? So you didn't say anything, but did you just answer every question I just asked you?
I was the only one
I lost you.
Yeah, the only one I got stuck on is I just don't know if I'm slow or fast.
Okay, okay.
I don't know if I'm short or tall.
So here's the point, though.
I know
you're
I know
answering
what you
the
are
question
there.
because some people will that will lead them to another one.
But my brain is unraveling to try to find the correct answer, right?
So here's the thing: is most people ask the wrong questions.
Yeah.
And so they ask questions to sit there and unravel it forever, get all up in their head, versus learning to ask questions that actually like lead you to the right answers. And like, I'll give you just a quick example. When people are struggling, they'll say things like, "Why does this always happen to me?"
Yeah.
Versus,
"What is this trying to teach me?"
That's right.
Where
Stuff
is
like
this
that.
trying to redirect me?
What questions versus what questions?
That's right.
Yeah.
And so those types of things, learning how to ask better questions, interpersonal skills, obviously learning how to present, how to follow up professionally, how to network professionally.
Let's talk about a big one.
Yeah.
What about, like, I mean, you've had a lot of success. You're saying all the great things of like what it takes like to be successful, but there had to be somebody that tucked you under their wing at some point somewhere, some form of mentor, some form of coach. We have them. Most high achievers have some form of coach or mentor. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, it's a very rare person that like climbs the whole mountain by themselves.
Yeah.
And just freaking figured it
Yeah.
out by themselves. I'm not trying to say that never happens, but it's really a rare person.
Yeah, that's the exception to the rule, but there's always an exception
Aristotle
to the rule.
said, if I've seen further, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants. That's typically how it happens.
Correct. So did you have that individual in your life from when you started maybe on the first business that didn't work and then worked with you on the second? Or talk a little bit about that, because
it's an interesting segue, because my first business really, I really had no mentoring. The person that introduced me to that concept quit. The person that introduced him quit. Like, I just was like all by myself. And the second business, the reason I joined that company was to get mentoring. There was a guy that I had kind of studied or followed for a while. I listened to all of his trainings and so on, and I wanted to work with him. He was in his 60s. I was in my 20s. And he was one of my kind of first kind of formal business mentors. I learned a ton from him. He ultimately died in a kayaking accident. He drowned in a kayaking accident.
Wow,
which,
too bad.
In one way, I guess he went doing what he freaking loved. He's fly fishing, kayaking.
Well, that's why I don't vacation as Cal.
That's why you don't kayak.
I don't go. That's dangerous.
I love
that
kayaking.
shit's dangerous. Traveling to get there, it's dangerous. I'm just gonna hunker down. Like, really, I'm a big homebody.
Yeah, so I think mentorship is huge. I call it the rule of 33, because you hear stuff like 5 people you hang out with most, all that kind of stuff. I call it rule of 33. It was interesting for me today at lunch, because you guys are part of the high 33. So check this out. You want to the way I look at it is this: 33% of your time should be working with people, or surrounding yourself with people, or taking time with people that are in essence below you. Maybe below you economically, below you in their career, because you can be a mentor. And sometimes you learn most by teaching, and learn most by sharing and learning and so on.
Like, when you learn something, go teach that to somebody else, so that your brain literally cements that lesson.
That's what I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, when you teach, you internalize it, and when you internalize, you own. So you learn it, you teach it, you internalize
Make
it, you own
your own.
Yes. So 33% with them, 33% is like your crew, just people that are in essence at your level.
Okay.
And then 33% of your time you want to spend with people that are further down the path than you are.
Yeah.
And so you're learning, like, oh, they think about it this way. They hustle this way. They do things this way. So to me, it's not like you're always trying to strive with these guys, because there's value in all things. Plus, it's a little bit of like
you're the student here, the teacher here, and you're the support here.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a great way to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you're like, there's an old Bible reference that says that we're supposed to be a light on a hill. Now, by the way, this is the good book according to me, so this is probably not even true, but this is just as my take. The light on a hill, like, in other words, let your light shine, be a light on a hill. Well, they don't say a mountain. They didn't say Everest. They didn't say like a plateau or a dip. It's a hill. Everyone's walked on hills. Hills aren't that intimidating, but on a hill, everyone can get access to the hill. Some people are ahead of you. Some people are behind you. The ones ahead of you every once in a while could use you to like secure them. Like, yo, I got you, bro. You're good. And then there's other times when you could use them to give you a hand and have them lift you up.
Right.
And then there's people below you that you could be like, yo, I got you, pull them up. And there's times when you need them to kind of secure you. So there's value of all those networks.
Yeah.
Going up and going down, you know?
I
love when I hear new shit like
new
that.
shit. I was
It's
just saying. I was
like-
just sitting there thinking.
Yeah.
I was like, I just love
That's
it.
the gospel according to me, bro.
Yeah,
That's,
know what I
that's,
mean?
I love it,
that's-
dude. I love you.
That should
Amen.
probably stop. That should probably
Preach.
stop today.
Hey, let's hit stop on that right there and just end with a banger. No, just kidding.
No, it's true though, because
no,
you
it
hear all
was
the same
amazing.
things, and
Yeah.
it's true. I mean, you
Yeah.
surround yourself with 5 people, you become the 6, whatever. You hear all the same stuff, but yeah, that's actually really cool. I like that whole analogy.
I'm looking up the questions that I was going to ask you.
Well, I'll finish the story on
Yeah,
the
please.
business. So
I
the second
do.
business, I ultimately figured that business out. So basically what happened is I thought it would take me kind of 2 months to get full speed, full time in that business. It took me 2 years. I was below zero financially, went and got 2 part-time jobs back. So here I am like chasing the dream to be free as an entrepreneur, working 2 part-time jobs, worked all night.
How many jobs?
2. So I'd work on the weekend selling the
I
Bible videos.
wanted to make sure people heard that 1 or 2 times because that type of work
Well,
ethic's of getting
okay, but let me
lost.
say this though. Let me say this. I had a call today with a woman. She's struggling in her entrepreneurial business. This is really good for your people.
Okay.
She's not there yet. It's not.
Yeah.
It's. I think she's making
Wants it.
$2,700 in profit in her business
A month.
which good for her.
A month?
Right.
Yeah, a month,
Okay.
which is
So
awesome.
It's a start.
It's just starting
It's
though.
start.
Right.
But she's like wants it to be more, and she's like, I'm so hungry. I'm
Oh, yeah.
desperate. And I was like, I told her, I said, sister, listen, your business, you're putting too much pressure on your business. Your business can't support your family full speed right now. You got to go figure it out. Go get
Yeah.
a job. Go
Yeah.
sell something. Whatever.
Uber.
Go Uber. Go do something. And she
is
goes, but
true.
then people will think. And I go, no,
Who
dude, this is what we
cares?
all went through. Like you
Oh,
have
yeah.
to grind. Like sometimes I think we want I know that you guys want the success. We all do.
Oh yeah.
But you gotta earn it, dude.
But you actually
gotta go out there and pay the price.
But you actually have to want the success, not the look
Yeah.
of success.
Yeah. Great
Yeah.
point.
Right? Because if you
She actually said that to me today.
if you really want success itself, then you're willing to do whatever it takes.
Right.
If you want the look of success so that you can look cool because you might want to impress a few people that you're surrounded by, which is probably the wrong people if you feel the need to impress those individuals, but you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You're doing it for the look, but not the real thing. Like, are you really in business to become financially independent and provide for your family? Or is it just cool to be an entrepreneur right now?
Be on your Instagram handle for
Right.
sure.
You know what I mean? Like, but back in the day, entrepreneurs were the nerdy ones, right? Like, and now it's just cool. So now people want to try to flex and be that prior to them even being that. And that's a huge issue because people are stunning their business's growth by trying to look like a successful
exactly what I'm saying.
entrepreneur prior to being a successful one, but they're on the path. If you could fake it, that means you're going down the right direction.
Yeah.
But pump the brakes a little bit. Delay the
On
gratification.
the lifestyle stuff.
Correct.
There's no question.
Delay the
Right.
gratification. Once you can start getting it, delay it for another 2 or 3 years.
Totally agree.
And then you're
I would
right
bro-
where you need to be.
I used to walk out of business meetings. This is when I was in those just I'm coming now. My business, we were generating millions of dollars in revenue. Like it was moving. It wasn't at zero. But I'd walk out of business meetings. The guy would be like, "Yo, I'll walk out of your car." I'm like, "No, I'm good." I was just like fake, like I'm on a phone. I got to grab this real quick.
Yeah.
And then I'd go 2 parking lots down to my white Toyota Corolla with 250,000 miles on it because I was like embarrassed, whether I should have been or shouldn't or not. But I
When we're young, we think we have to
That's
be,
right.
look,
That's right.
and
That's
do
right.
all this stuff in order to have somebody take
Yes.
us seriously. But that's wrong.
it's wrong. I agree.
Because
I agree.
honestly,
the most
at this level,
the more
right now,
successful you
we
are,
respect the
that's right.
shit out of a
That's
mother
right.
that's coming up
That's
in
right.
here in a Toyota Camry that's hustling.
That's
We're just
hustling.
like,
Yeah.
that kid's gonna go
That's
somewhere.
exactly right.
I want to support that person,
That's right.
and we didn't see it that way.
That's
We
exactly
can
right.
see it now because we have a different perspective,
Exactly.
but we're hiding from the truth because we think that the truth will lose
I
the deal.
will say this though. I think a lot of your people that listen, my guess is that they probably feel like a little bit of a fraud sometimes.
I think everybody does at one point or another.
Not
some
just
sort
the
of
imposter syndrome stuff. Not
Okay.
just
Yeah.
not just that. But like we're out there saying things like basically I need like do business with me. Do business with my business. And like your whole business, like your company
Yeah.
is like freaking you. You're like the CEO, janitor,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
And you're like going and getting multi-million-dollar deals like you were talking about today. Like we're closing big deals with your business now. But when you're first out there hustling, you're kind of like, suck, dude. I hope I can deliver. I hope I got what it takes.
I'll take this back to my organization and we'll get
We'll
get a process.
That's exactly right.
You know?
That's exactly right. And so you feel a little bit like a fraud. And what I'd share with you is this. It's like, I think the authenticity of like, listen, this is where we're at. Always show up with confidence and work hard, but don't bullcrap people. People, they know, people aren't stupid. They can kind of figure it out. But to your point, the more successful they are, the more they'll admire the hustle.
Oh, guaranteed.
The more they'd respect it. So in that business, I ultimately took me 2 years. At one point, moved my pregnant wife and our 2 kids at the time into the loft above my wife's parents' garage. My 2 babies slept in the closet. My wife and I were sleeping in this little loft. There was nights. I'm laying there. It's pitch black. It's like 1 a.m. And I'm like, "Are you awake?" She's like, "Yeah." She was like, "Are you awake?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Is this real? Like, am I going to ever accomplish this? Like, what am I doing with my life?" And she's like, "You got this." Like, I'm fortunate to have an incredible wife. Long story short, I built, a multi-million-dollar business with that company. I ended up selling it when I was 30. I did private equity consulting for 2 years. And then my current business, I came in as a consultant to a 25-year-old company. It was an interesting company, 25 years old, a couple $100 million a year in revenue. So as you would imagine, that business is got its own complexities.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
20 plus countries around the world. It done over $6 billion in sales in 25 years. So it had its own culture. It had its own environment. It's a running business.
Yeah, it's an entire organization.
It's an entire thing.
Its own beast, yeah.
Its own beast. But it had 8 years of declining revenue. So it's like going the wrong direction fast. A double-digit per year declining
momentum.
Wow.
That shows you momentum, good or bad, is momentum.
That's bad momentum.
8 years.
Right. That's right.
So
we came in with this task of like, okay, well, and by the way, the company had great assets, like a good asset base, but just a bad balance sheet. It just wasn't looking right.
Right.
So it was like, you guys got to go like transform this company. We're like, all right. The 2 hardest things to do in business, number 1 is a turnaround, and number 2 is a startup.
Right.
And we did both at the exact same time. We basically we just ripped this thing to the floorboards and just rebuilt. We created a brand called Modere, a concept called social retail that we thought was just this really cool social sharing model. And in the last, we're finishing year 7 right now. So we've acquired over 4 million customers with that business, over $2 billion in sales. We paid what we call our social marketers. We gave them a free app with a $10 code. We paid them like over $1 billion accumulatively in commissions. And we built just this incredible, cool business that I feel like we're just kind of getting the party started. And that whole story, and that's changed my whole life. That whole business changed my life. And I look at that now, and all of those early years, all the grind, all the stuff, I didn't like it at the time, but man, it makes you grateful at the end.
Well,
right.
It makes you into who you are.
Yeah, when you're saying that, I was just all I think of is the training ground. All that was you had to go through all that to be valuable enough to end up getting to that role that ended up changing your life, right? But without all of these different complexities in regards to the situations that you had to face, success taken away, gone, see you later, to kind of rebuilding again. The resilience is there. Everything's there, but that's what makes, when you finally get there, that much sweeter.
Yes.
And I don't think people really understand, it's not like me and Kel, it's not like we don't go through anything still. There's still a lot of difficult times on the path to, going from, 10 million to 20 million to 20 million to 30. Like, there's always struggles, but we kind of have to go through those so that it can mold us into the people that we need to be in order to operate at that 20, 30 million dollar level, right?
Yeah.
And so anytime we face a problem, individuals need to understand that, just look at, this is your training ground. You have to go through whatever it is that you need to go through to get where you're trying to go. Like, there's no way around that thing
right.
that you're facing.
Yeah.
Put your head down and go through it.
Yeah, the obstacle is the way, for sure.
Correct.
Right.
So let me hit you guys with this. One of the things that I teach my teams, and I would be interested to hear your take on this. I have 2 thoughts. One is I tell them to rid themselves of all entitlement. Like that someone owes you something, or it should be easier for you. You just rid yourself. And in our society today, like, it's taught that the government owes you something, your state owes you something, your parents owe you something.
Right.
Some people owe you stuff. In fact, you're a victim. I tell people, the more that you can rid yourself of that, it is actually extremely empowering, because you're like, you know what? I'm going to go make my life. I'm going to go make this thing happen.
Absolutely.
And there's a simple formula that I teach, and it's a formula I got from someone else. I'm not sure who the originator of it was. It's super, super simple. It's E plus R equals O. So E plus R equals O. So event plus response equals outcome. So a victim would say the E equals O, the event equals the outcome. This is what happened to me. This is why I am where I am. But you understand you're not victims of your events.
Right.
You're a victor of your events because you own the R. You own your response to the event. So the E plus your response equals the outcome. So you, what's his name? In the concentration camp, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl said it's the space. It's the space is the response. You own the response because you couldn't own all the events, but you could own your response to the events. Second lesson, I think, from that, so E doesn't equal O. The second one would be that the R is not react, the R is respond. So great leaders don't react, great leaders respond.
Right.
I agree.
And so you respond. It's how you get back up. It's how long do you stay down? How far do you fall? How long do you stay down?
React is knee-jerk emotion.
Yes,
Boom, boom,
yes,
boom. There's
yes.
nothing logical
Yes,
about a
yes.
reaction.
Yes.
Like it just like it's the same as the doctor hitting your knee,
Yes.
and boom, it comes up. A reaction is almost something that's really not as controlled.
Yes.
As a response.
The very first way to respond versus react, the very first step, to your point, is you press pause.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like take a deep breath, press pause. You say to yourself, how do I want to show up right now?
Yeah.
Like, how do I want to respond? Bruce Lee talked about it having a mind like water. So he said, like, if you took a rock and threw it into a still pond, you throw it in, he says, how does the water respond? He says totally appropriately.
Yeah.
To the size and the mass and the speed of the rock.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, how genius is that, dude?
I mean, who thinks
A mind like
stuff
water.
like
It
that?
doesn't over-respond and
Yeah.
it doesn't under-respond. It responds totally appropriately. That's your goal.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the third lesson, so you have the E doesn't equal the O. R is respond versus react. The third lesson is this. This is interesting. Your R, your response, creates an E for others. The way you choose to respond in your life will create events for other people in their life.
Right. It's true.
So like if you're a parent,
Good or bad. Yeah.
if you got a marriage, you got like a business, you got customers, you got employees,
Yeah.
you show up and fly off the handle. If you create an event that negatively in that example affects everybody else.
Yeah.
So that's why as a leader, you gotta say, how am I gonna respond? So when you have tough times happen in your life, you say, listen, I'm gonna take full ownership of this. I'm gonna take full responsibility in my life. I'm going to respond. The way I'm going to respond to that is this, and that shapes your outcome.
Well, I would bet that's
Love it.
that's probably one of the majority of the things missing in human beings' lives. I think a lot of people are very just reactive, instant gratification.
Right.
If you're instant gratification, then you're a reactive type person. I don't think individuals are really taking a step back and ever taking time to reflect. And if you never take time to reflect on the data or the information that the history of your life holds, all the good decisions and the great outcomes that happen from those decisions and all the terrible decisions and all the terrible things that happen from, how can you change or evolve if you never take that pause and step back and analyze how you want to address moving forward? People they wake up, they're on their phone. It's information over, and then by the time they hit their bed, their pillow at night, they never had time to free think or even reflect.
They don't know
it's
how.
Just very,
exactly. The thing is we're all fed a programming in our childhood. We don't choose that, right? And so we just go into life, like basically living life the way we were taught by our parents and they were taught by their parents. And people don't actually start trying to force a change until something drastic happens to them. And that's what happened to me. I was just living life, trying to hustle and survive. I didn't know I had all these issues. I didn't know that I had entitlement issues. I didn't know that I had anger issues. I didn't know that I had victim issues, right? I didn't know that until something happened to me and it forced me in a situation of like, I need to change.
Like it forced you in a situation of deep reflection in order for you to come up with, I need to change.
Right. But you have a hardwired belief system in you from your upbringing until you decide to change it. And to change it takes a lot of work. And most people don't want to face that work. And so it takes 3 to 5 years of thinking differently to actually have it be hardwired, and so people don't want to do that work. They don't want to consistently, naturally practice new and different thoughts to change their belief system to change who they are.
Yeah, but there's and I agree wholeheartedly with that. No, you're not responsible for how you were raised, but you're responsible for yourself today.
Absolutely.
And it's a matter of just taking control. So let's stop living.
You have to become a person of accountability.
Correct.
Right.
But unfortunately, people don't do that deep reflection until a moment of pain where you're just like, what is going wrong?
Right.
And then you really start analyzing, am I like that? Again, the quality of questions you ask yourself determines the quality of answers that you receive, which is pretty much the notion that you made earlier today.
Yeah.
But most people don't ask themselves those tough questions until they're in a tough spot, because if you're in this fairy tale land of everything's okay, it's not terrible, but it's not great. That's
it's the death of the middle.
Correct. That's just death.
When it's great, congratulations.
Yes.
Right.
If it sucks so freaking bad you'll change, it's the death of the middle. The middle is just, your life doesn't hurt bad enough to
No
change.
man's land.
Exactly.
So most people live an entire life of reaction to distraction versus an entire life of intentional creation. One thing that's so cool about you guys, I was sitting with you today, I commented this to you guys. You guys have intentionally created a friendship, and then you've intentionally gone out and started creating economy, creating businesses, this idea, let's chase it, make it happen, right?
Yeah.
And that idea led to things and led to creation. It's a very creative mode. In fact, again, going back to the good book, and I'm an amateur in the good book, it's just a good point. Very first line of the Old Testament. I'm talking very first line. It doesn't, even if people don't know the good book, they'll know this. In the beginning, what? God did what? He freaking created.
Right.
The very first identity you learn about whoever this is this being,
right,
is he's a creator.
Yeah.
And that we get to co-create in our lives. We're creators in our life. You get to create. And so most people live a life of reaction to distraction. Phones, life, just react all day. That's the whole life. Versus intentionally creating your life. I've done a lot of work with John Maxwell. And he tells a story when he went to a basketball game with Pat Summitt. I don't know if you guys remember Pat Summitt. She was the all-time winningest.
Short.
Tennessee.
She was was she
Tennessee Volunteers
for 20
ever.
years, 30 years
she was
or something.
All-time winningest. I think she was all-time winningest college basketball coach, male or female.
Yeah.
This woman won 6 national championships. She's no joke.
Yeah.
So he goes to the game. She invites him into the locker room at halftime. So he goes into the locker room. Her players go into the locker room, and then all the coaches go into a side room.
Right.
So all the players are sitting there like this, and John's in there just because he got invited in, and she's not in the room. Now here's the all-time winningest coach, 6 national championships. This woman's got a lot to say. Not even in the room. The players go up to a whiteboard like this, and they picked up a marker and answered 3 questions that were on the whiteboard. The questions were, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? Where do we need to change? The coaches walk in. Pat Summitt walks in. I mean, you can imagine this lady could lecture for days on what to do.
Sure. Right.
She walks in, looks at the whiteboard, makes 1 or 2 comments. They do the whole all right, put your hands in the middle and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, team cheer.
Yeah.
They walk out.
Right.
And John's like, what the heck was that? She didn't even say anything. They go to dinner after.
Speech.
That's right.
Yeah.
We go to dinner after, to a steak dinner, and they're sitting there, and he goes, you got to tell me about the halftime thing. What was that? You didn't even say anything. And she goes, when I was a young coach, I was an assumptive leader. I just assumed everyone got it. And she said, I realized what I had to do is stop assuming and just ask them, what are you seeing? What are you experiencing? And she said, when I stopped assuming, she said, in order to lead your people, you first have to find your people. You have to stop assuming they get it. Stop assuming that, that they are where they are. So here's what I'd share with you. This whole thing about your life. You stop assuming your identity, because you'll always be consistent with your identity. You'll never outperform the way you see yourself. If you see yourself as a winner, you guys, it's interesting. You guys see yourselves as winners. That's why if you start a new business, you're not like, freak, I hope this goes well, dude. It's like, no, we're going to freaking go crush this thing.
Right.
Now, it may take us more time. It may take us longer than we thought. We have to wake up early. That's what winners think. I'm going to freaking go
We're
crush this.
long-term thinkers.
If you go play for the Los Angeles Lakers, they expect to win. It's not like, man, I hope this year. If you go play for the Sacramento Kings, they're used to losing. It's okay to lose. If you lose, it's just, if you make the playoffs, they're like, wow, good for you.
Yeah,
they didn't expect it. So people will never outperform the way they see themselves. That's why people are so consistent. Liars tend to lie. Cheaters tend to cheat. Stealers tend to steal. Winners tend to win. And what I'd share with you is updating your identity. I say to people, I say to my team, or I say to people I coach all the time, I'll say, listen, when was the last, the people will be like, this is how I am. Like, when was the last time you updated that? Like, when was the last time you updated your identity? Because I tell people, you're not who you are who you were born to become. You are your potential. So don't get lost in the words here. Think of this. When you were 17, you were who you were, but you weren't who you were. You were who you are now, and you aren't who you are now. You're who you were born to become. You're chasing this version of that growth into that full potential. So I tell people, create your future with your future, not your past. Create your future with your future vision of what you could do, who you could become, with that identity that person would have versus the identity of the past.
Right.
And man, when you start getting more like, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Where do I need to improve?
What's the action item behind improving?
That's right.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you start updating, who do I have to become that person?
Yeah.
And you start stringing it together. You start stringing wins
Yeah, I mean,
together.
I don't think people understand the power of choice, and they really need to sit back and understand the power of choice.
They need to understand they have choice.
They have,
right?
They
have
choice
it.
is so powerful, and everybody has that.
It's the
power.
choice to respond.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And whether it's respond, I can leave this podcast right now and get in my truck, drive to Vegas, buy a plane ticket to freaking Timbuktu, and go stay there for a week. I have that choice. Does that mean I'm going to do it? Like, how many different choices do I have when I leave this podcast? I can go that direction. You know, of course, I'm going to go probably the path that's the most familiar, which is home. But unfortunately, most people continue to go down a familiar path, and the home is a shitty place. Where they're living, their life right now is shitty.
Mm-hmm.
But they have a choice to go straight or right. Why do they keep turning left? You don't have to do that anymore. You could create your new identity. The problem is you're living in this old character of these things that your brain reminds you of that you're not. Oh, you're terrible in school. You're a drug addict. You had a kid at 18. You did terrible in school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was talking to Tino today that came in and met with me at noon.
Right.
You know, and I'm like, your problem is, dude, is your mind is literally selling you all the bullshit stories of everything that you're not, based upon the fact that it's a record of the past, and you need to start looking forward.
Yeah.
Stop all that. Like, start moving. What's the next action item to go forward and get closer to the thing that you came here to talk to me about?
Do you want to know what's so interesting? You're listening to this right now, and you actually are stuck. Your life, the house does suck. The life does suck. Okay, how do I move forward? You want to know what the answer is? Freaking move forward.
Yeah.
One step.
Right.
Tell people it's a left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. Move forward. Even if you stumble forward, move forward. So here's the questions I ask. There's two questions. One is, what is the attitude shift that I need to make to move forward? Because if you're in a freaking just bad headspace, so I'll give you an example. Like, what could I be grateful for right now? What could I be excited for about right now? Who could I serve right now? Like, you start asking these types of questions. Second thing is, what's the next physical action I could take to move my business forward, move my life forward? Next physical action. Physical meaning like I'm going to do something, not just think about it or freaking go like want it to happen or hope it happens.
That's an action
I'm
item.
Physically, like I'm going to follow up with the customer.
I'm going to send that email right now and say, set up that entity.
That's
for
exactly
me.
right.
Or let's do the business deal. I've thought about it. You know, whatever it is. We've been on the fence about hiring that. No, hire the employee.
Yes. Next step. Next step.
Is that going to get you closer to the goal that you said that you had? Then do it.
Yes.
No matter the emotion or fear that's behind it, you move forward. That's it. There's no other option. The other option is look around you.
Yep.
How
do I shift my attitude? What's the next action? And then just ask it again. How do I shift my attitude? Next action. What's also interesting is this. Winners string wins together. Winners bloom where they're planted, and they start stringing wins together. That's how you create positive momentum. You guys remember that thing years ago? I think it was at malls or whatever. You put a quarter in, and it would just like spin and spin and spin and spin and spin. And then towards
Still find
the
them
end,
here and there. Once
it
in a
would
while.
go fast and then fall in the hole.
into the thing. Yeah.
That's how momentum works. Like, it just is like kind of like long and just like you're never going to get there. And then all of a sudden, like, woo, it starts building up momentum. The problem is most people have negative momentum. That's actually happening in the negative.
Reverse.
Absolutely.
And so you have to, the way you stop it is stopping it and asking those two questions. Okay, how do I shift my attitude? What attitude shift could I have? Like, what could I be grateful for right now if I had to be? Second one is, what's the next physical action? And then you start going back up to create positive momentum. Same thing with positive. You get going, and all of a sudden it's just like success is just attractive, and people are like, "You're amazing." You're like, "I think I am. Let's go."
Yeah.
And you start to just build this life, you know. But it's positive momentum. And the way you start it is those two things: shift your attitude and take action.
I think when you talked about like shifting attitude and gratitude or whatever, I was thinking about this just the other day on one of my walks. I'm like, there's so many different things that we have the ability to do every single day that we take for granted. Even just the fact of just human interaction, we take that for granted. Like, if I put your ass in solitary confinement for 2 years, you seeing another human being and having a conversation would be like Christmas
course.
morning to a freaking 3-year-old.
For sure.
Right.
You know what I mean? But we have conversations every day that we don't feel any emotion. We're not grateful for them because we have them every day.
It's
Those
law of
interactions,
familiarity,
right?
right?
Like, exactly.
We become too familiar with it. There's a law called the law of use. So the law of use. So I had shoulder surgery. I have a big.
I don't believe it, dude. Those big old things. The only shoulder surgery you had was shoulder implant.
So when I was 16, I blew out my shoulder trying to impress girls doing a handstand push-up, and then playing basketball, I blew it out, and so I have a scar right here. For 6 weeks, I believe it was 6 or 8 weeks, I was in a sling, but it was like you couldn't. You had to like wrap it when you showered. Like you literally couldn't use the arm, you know. And then you had to go through rehab, dude. Even as a 16-year-old kid, I had a decent build. I lifted weights, the whole thing. When you don't use your arm for 6 weeks, it's the law of use. What the law of use says: what you don't use, you lose.
Yeah.
So my arm atrophied. And so one of the ways to feel gratitude is recognize the gifts and then use them, dude.
Yeah.
Because when you don't use them, you lose them.
Right.
The law of use kicks in, which is if you don't use it, you lose it. And also you start to atrophy in that skill, atrophy in that gratitude that you should be feeling. You know, when you realize that most of the world lives on $2.50 a day, you're like, yo, I'm listening to this thing freaking right now on my iPhone. Like I'm doing just fine. Get your freaking head right and like get back to work.
What do you think? What would you say is something a large amount of people value that you don't?
You know, you kind of just the first one that comes to mind that you kind of talked about earlier is kind of that instant gratification. Like it's not that I don't. I mean,
Of course, everybody wants what they want, and they want it right now.
But
Nobody
listen,
wants
like
to delay shit.
the willingness to like say, I'm going to make long-term investments or think a little bit long-term or plant today knowing I'm not going to harvest for years or I tell people, always do more than you're paid for as an investment in your future. Always is a big word.
Right.
Always isn't sometimes or occasionally or every once in a while. Always is always.
Yeah.
And then you don't do what you're paid for. You do more than you're paid for. And you do it as an investment in your future. And when I say investment in your future, not just investment in your economic future, but you do it as an investment in the person you're becoming. Like,
Yeah.
I've traveled all over the world for my own business, but I've traveled all over the world speaking. Like back in the day, I'd speak for people for free in different countries around the world because I was just trying to serve them and add value and just. But it was serving me. I was growing. I was maturing. Like I was becoming the person that I'm becoming now. And so you're always doing more than you're paid for as an investment in your future, but that takes a little bit of long-term thinking, a little bit of like casting vision out.
Yeah. But you were giving your time, your energy, your effort, but yet at the same time, you were still receiving.
Oh, of course.
And so
No question.
that's something that people need to keep top of mind as well. There's takers in the world, right? But when you give, you said, "Oh, I learned so much when I did that," but you weren't getting paid to do it. Right? Like a lot of people they disregard the amount of what ultimately serving can bring back to your life. The amount of financial gain, the amount of, filling up your soul, right? Like all of these different things, these great things that can happen when you're just of service. And when you're just of service, the funny thing is the universe is watching. And we've done a lot of shit for free in the last 2 or 3. We've done. Kel was in that office over there, 2 days ago, yesterday, because somebody sent a DM going through a tough ass divorce. And he says, "I get it, bro. Like, let's hop on a call." You know what I mean? What did you get? How much did you get paid for that?
Nothing. But
We had to put off some shit that we were doing in here so that you could peel off and go do that phone call.
Right.
The universe was watching.
That's the right thing to do, for sure.
The right thing to do. He gave his time and gave his, he's been through the divorce.
You always do more than you're paid for. That's exactly what that is. So let me say this, dude. There's an old Bible verse, and I'm not trying to preach.
I love them, dude.
So let me say this though.
Hey, right in.
So far, I've learned new verses.
yeah.
So
this
far,
is all according to me.
Yeah,
This is the Bible according to Jacob P.
Exactly.
You better be careful on those.
Yeah.
So it says,
You might want to fact check
if
this.
you lose yourself, you'll find yourself.
Right.
If I lose my iPhone, I lost my iPhone. I didn't find anything.
Yeah.
So if I have a bushel of grain and my kids are starving and my family's going to die, I'm hungry. If I grind it up, I can make bread and feed the family. But if I'll take the grain and I'll lose it, I'll give it into the soil, I won't get back a bushel of grain. I'll get back 1,000 bushels of grain. If I have $1, the reason people invest dollars versus spend $1, if you have $1 and whatever you use, you lose. Whatever you hold, you'll lose it.
Yeah.
You have $1. If you just use it, you'll lose it. It's gone. But if you'll invest it into the marketplace, you get back $1,000. Or are you following what I'm saying? Like you get back a return. Same thing's true with your time.
Right.
When you're starting a business, you're like, dude, I don't have any time. I got a job. I freaking got a bunch of stuff going on. I got kids. I got their things. Well, in the nooks and crannies of your day, late at night, early in the morning, during your lunch break, maybe on the drive home, you build a business. And you say, well, I don't have any time. You take that little time you have and you invest it into the marketplace, and it gives you back 1,000 hours of time.
Yeah.
And so what you give, you actually get back. You think you're giving. No, dude, you're receiving 1,000 times.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like
I was
simultaneous.
trying to make that point, but you just did it way faster and easier than me, and I don't like it. Now it's the Justin Prince podcast.
That's right.
I retire. Yeah, no. Kale, any last words?
Oh man, that was cool. I was sitting here just enjoying the conversation.
Yeah,
you
me
know
too.
What I mean?
I really, I did too. It's just refreshing.
Keith Craft? You know who he
I don't
is?
know that
He's
name.
like a pastor guy, like pastor
Keith,
dudes. Anyway, we've gotten to know him a little bit, but he builds a lot of his business philosophy, which he has an awesome business around his Bible verses and his stuff.
Says
so.
he's not normally like
and I love it, dude.
We brought out
I didn't get
the spiritual guy in Justin.
Well, I didn't get that growing up, dude. I haven't really had a pretty cool connection with God until the last year of my life. So I've always believed in God, but I didn't have like a cool.
You didn't invest time, energy, or effort into making a deep connection.
Right, didn't. So whenever people that have a deeper understanding of Bible verses and things like that, I've never like fully studied it. Right, I've been reading Proverbs lately on my Niv app, and I've been just jumping into. I've been praying daily. I've been doing all these things.
Cool.
But so when we get a guest like you that comes in, and you're like you're making all these cool points. That are also kind of spiritual. It's cool, man.
Yeah,
so I just sat here and enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. I really
So.
I enjoyed it as well. And what I think I'm going to do after this podcast is I'm going to select 2 or 3 Bible verses and memorize them, so people think that I've got the whole thing memorized. Because, dude, they hear you quote 1 or 2, they're gonna be like, "Holy cow, this guy's got it just flying off the top of his head." I don't know. Maybe Justin has 1 million. Maybe this is it. Maybe he had his top 3.
I had 3 and
and he's done. But he can fool us right now and say that he knows that inside and out. And I'd believe it.
Yeah.
So
I'd share this, dude. I think that the word Bible means the book of books. It's a compilation of all these books. I didn't know that. And so using that one specifically, but this is a bigger discussion about books or about learning. Is you just become a student of the best books. Yeah. The books of the books, right? In that case, it's the book of books, which is the compilation of all those books. But then you become a student of these different books, and you say, like, what can I learn from the Stoics, from Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor? What can I learn from these different
eras, everything,
these different eras and these different Bible things? And you say, like, with some of those Bible verses, entire civilizations have been taught on those concepts. Yeah. Right. And then you look at some of the great business books that we have, that we've all raised up on, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, all that kind of stuff. There's these foundational ideas, and someone said it might. There's nothing new under the sun, right? Yeah. We're all just products. Like Aristotle said, if I've seen further, it's only by standing on the shoulders of giants. And so, for me to come hang out with you guys to hopefully add some value to your people. That's the way that we were able to stand on some shoulders, some giant shoulders. People get to stand on ours. People get to stand on theirs. We all just, we're all just kind of a collection of the whole.
So powerful. I will say this though, because it will tie in with what we were talking about earlier on the whole, power of choice and people feeling stuck. Like I was sitting in a therapist's office, right? And my wife was like, "I'm leaving, and I'm done with you." She had met somebody else, and I'm like, "I can't stand that I didn't know I had all these issues yet, and I didn't know I was choosing all these things in my life. I didn't know all that, right?" Yeah. But I was waiting for my therapist because he had someone else in his office, and he has like this waiting room with all these bookshelves, and it's just how powerful books are. I pull out this book called The Choice Theory. I never read it, but I read the back page that day, and it like pow hit me in the face, dude. It was just like, I've been choosing all this. So just how powerful books are, And that's just how powerful like the power of choice is. And until you know it, until you know you actually have it, and you are choosing what you have right now, people just don't know till they know. So that was like my aha moment, right? But so I was thinking about that as we were talking about this whole podcast,
Well,
and it's like weird how it came full circle.
Yeah, I mean, it's just even hearing stories like that, like when you're in a dark place and you actually are still, you got your head up still, like looking for answers. The universe will put you in the right spot at the right time.
You'll find them.
Kel literally was at this weird spot in a counselor's like, and found the exact book that he needed in that exact moment to shake him to his core. The back, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just the way it works. It's just the way it works. But keep your eyes peeled for those little teeny things, because if you're in, or we'll all be in it at one point. It's just life, ebb and flows, right? You hit a dark moment when your business tanked, right? We all go through those moments, but at the same time, the individuals that end up winning are keeping a positive mental attitude why they're in the shit, and they're always looking for their way out, looking for the signs, and putting themselves in a position to win even when it feels like everything's working against them.
So I know we're going over. I'll hit you guys with one last concept just to leave.
Well, we're trying to respect your time. I can jam all night with you. Kel's the only one that has to be up at 4 a.m. to fly out.
We'll bounce.
I'll sleep in tomorrow. I'll do my 2 workouts later in the day.
I'll share this with your audience. So this goes back to long-term thinking. It goes back to making decisions. It goes back to analyzing your life and like really like asking those questions. So check this out. How many of you listening, how many of you know the story of how your parents met and know the story of how your mom and dad fell in love? How many of you know the story of, like, what was your mom's dreams when she was your age? Like her goals, her passions, your dad's, like what woke your dad up early when he was our age, you know? How many of you know the story of your grandparents? Like, how did grandma meet grandpa? What was his dreams and passions and like the stuff that was in his heart? What was your grandma, what woke her up early in the morning? And she's like, man, I love my life, you know? How many of you know the story of your great-grandparents? How did your great-grandma meet your great-grandpa?
I failed at all three so far.
Right.
How many of you know the great-great-grandma story or great-great-great-grandpa? Like, what was his dreams and his passions and his heart and, like, the courage that he had or didn't have? Who was he? Yeah. And you want to live a life and write a story where future generations of children who are yet unborn, when they look up into that family lineage, they say, it was her or it was him.
That changed.
She's the one.
Yeah.
He's the one that changed our family's life forever. She's the one that broke the generational curse. He's the one that stopped the abuse that was happening down. He's the one that built the empire. He's the one that made the decisions. He's the one that changed our family's economic future forever. She's the one that had the courage. They're the one that had the commitment. It was her. It was him. You want to be that one. And I tell people, you want to be the one. The cool thing about that is this. One, guess how many, so there's be the one's 3 words, right? So one, guess how many people it takes to break a generational curse?
1.
Just takes 1. Guess how many, like, alcoholism's in your family? You're the one that breaks it.
Right.
Abuse is in your family? You're the one that breaks it. Acting a fool's in your family? You're the one that breaks it.
We have a friend that did that, Corey.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, dude, I grew up in a house, like, nasty abuse, all this stuff. And he goes, I wanted to make sure that my house wasn't
exactly
like that.
right. So it takes 1. How many does it take to build a financial legacy that breaks the chains of poverty and the chains of just financial illiteracy? It takes 1. 1 decision, 1 commitment. Next one is be. So be is not become, be is not grow into, be is not try to grow like. Be is just a present word. Like it's like be it today. So I'll leave you guys this last story and we're out of here. There's a young man growing up in Wichita, Kansas, flunking out of high school, hanging out with the wrong kids, flunking out of his life.
Sounds like I would have kicked it with him.
You guys would have been home.
Oh, guaranteed.
So raised by a single mom, May of his junior year, he promised his mom he'll go take the SAT test. So SAT, if you remember, had 2 sides, a math side, comprehension side. It's 800 points per side, 1,600 total. Kid goes and takes a test, gets the results back, and he's completely stunned.
I've heard this one.
He scores a 1480 out of 1,600, which means the kid's a freaking genius.
Yeah.
So he takes it back to his mom, and his mom said what all of our moms would have said to us. She goes, "Did you cheat?" He goes, "Mom, I did not cheat. This is real. For reals, Mom, I did it." He said, "I tried to cheat, but the way they had the bubble and Scantron, I couldn't cheat." She goes, "Man, my son's pretty smart." He realizes, well, man, if I'm smart, I should go to class. When he goes to class, he changes his behavior and stops hanging out with the bad kids.
Right.
When he changes his behavior, his teachers say, Franklin, we had it wrong on you. You're a pretty smart kid. Graduates from high school, graduates from junior college, graduates from Wichita State, goes to the Ivy Leagues, ends up graduating and becoming an entrepreneur in the magazine industry, one of the most successful entrepreneurs in that industry in the country. You say, man, what a cool story. Here's a kid flunking out of school, flunking out of his life and changed it because of this test score. It's not the end of the story. So 13 years later, gets a letter in the mail from Princeton, New Jersey, and it says, he opens it up and it says, we periodically review our test-taking policies and test-taking procedures. In the year that you took the test, you were one of 13 students that was accidentally sent the wrong test score. You didn't score 1480.
This was like 700.
You scored a 740.
Yeah.
And he said, my whole life people have been telling me, your life changed when you got that test score. He said, no, my whole life changed when I started acting like a 1480. So be the one today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Be that one today.
That's
you
cool.
don't have to
He said,
grow into it.
He
just
said,
be
without even trying, if I'm this smart, what would it be like if I tried and applied myself?
Yeah.
So he started applying himself and ended up going to Ivy League, but he was an idiot.
Yeah.
He was a 700.
We all probably are. But you
exactly.
start playing the role, and all of a sudden you grow right into it.
Exactly. And in regards to like changing lineage or generations, going back to Bible stuff, let's talk about pioneers.
Right.
Pioneers. These people trekked across the entire United States to find a place for future generations to thrive. They went through hell.
Yeah.
Like absolute hell.
Some others lost their children and kept
Death.
trekking.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Diseases, death. Like, in order to find a better future for a next generation, they sacrificed
Everything.
probably decades going from east to west. And the Grand Canyon type, like, how do you come across this? Like, how do we get around this son of a gun with our wagons and or the snowstorms and, everything that went wrong. But they were willing to go through all that shit just to make sure that their kids had a better place to grow up, a better place to live, right? If they're willing to legitimately sacrifice years and years and years and risk life, and not only risk it, lose probably brothers or sisters or children or husbands and wives on the path, like, how come you can't sacrifice 5 or 10 years? Like, legitimately, 5 or 10 years of putting together the right decisions,
especially nowadays,
will absolutely change your life.
That's right.
And you're not risking your life. You're not risking your family's life. They'll have a roof over their head. They'll have food in their mouth. It might be top of ramen. Deal with it. I'm still here. I lived on it for a period of time, but that just kind of goes with, like, look, it just takes one. That took that one group of people, that generation, to move out west to create what we now see today.
That's right.
But they made that sacrifice, and we're now living in that sacrifice. Somebody in the future will live in the sacrifice that you're making today, as long as you see it through, right? Is really what it comes down to. Guys, just so that you know, we didn't touch a whole lot on what Justin does in terms of like personal coaching, things like that, mentorship. Is there a way for somebody to check you out on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, stuff like that? Just kind of connect with you.
Yeah, of course. So IamJustinPrince.com is my site, and then obviously IamJustinPrince.com across basically all platforms.
I am Justin Prince on Instagram.
Exactly.
That type of stuff.
Yeah. So love to connect, happy to add value, and I put out, as you guys do, a ton of free stuff, a ton of content just to, I made 2 promises when I was struggling. It was a promise I made to myself, a promise I made freaking to God as I drive my car, bawling my eyes out trying to figure it out. One promise was, if I ever figure it out, I won't forget what it feels like to struggle. And the second one is, if I ever figure it out, I'll help as many other people accomplish their dreams and accomplish their goals as I can. And so I still feel kind of called to that. Just like, your dreams and goals are possible. You can do it. Overcoming the struggle to achieve them is worth it. And then accomplishing them is necessary, to your point. There's future generations of kids who are yet unborn that are cheering you on. And there's people that have gone before you that are saying, yo, you got this. Like, we sacrificed for you. And so what I would share is, your playing small doesn't serve the world. Like, you got to freaking step it up in your life, because people need you. We need you to play all out. Like, if you guys would have played small, there's literally thousands of people's lives that wouldn't have been positively affected if you guys would have just played small with your life and not taken any risks and not gone for it and not overcome adversity. So people need you listening, to play all out. Go for it. Be urgent. Marcus Aurelius says memento mori, which means life is short. He says you could leave life right now, let it determine what you do, say, and think. And Kobe Bryant, my favorite Kobe Bryant quote ever. And Kobe, we all freaking grew up with Kobe, watching him do his thing and being a mentor to us, from normalizing the power of hard work. Kobe Bryant says, the biggest mistake we make is believing we have time. Yeah. And it means even more coming from him now, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so what I'm sharing with you is this, like, take action now, get to work now, get over your fear now, step it up now, rid yourself of all entitlement now, and take action and go for it.
Yeah.
Like, playing small doesn't serve the world. Like, service to many leads to greatness. Like, step it up and get into action.
I think what we should do, I think we should leave them with the challenge of an action item. When you say we're talking about moving forward, taking that next step, as you're listening to this, there had to be something that was connecting to, like, man, I do need to take action on that thing, or whatever it is, right? If you're driving in the car, you're at the gym, you're at home, wherever you're at listening to it, just pick one thing right now. One thing that you may have been putting off for a moment, a month, 2 months, maybe a year, 2 years, whatever that thing is that you're putting off is the actual answer to all of your problems. So find what that thing is for you in your life and create an action item. Do one thing to get one step closer to that. Start getting the momentum in the positive direction. Because sitting idle is in a form of negative momentum, right? So,
That's right.
Dude, you were a black. We should just have him on as a guest teacher. Why don't you just co-host with us?
See you next Thursday.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, that's Friday, bro. We'll see you every Friday night, 7:00. You'll be here. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, for real. We appreciate you coming on.
Honored to do it, guys. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, guys, reach out to Justin, show him some love. Let him know that you appreciated him taking time to drop the value that he did today, because there was a ton of value.
It's great.
And I just love conversations like this, to where it's just like, I feel like the synergy's there, the energy's there. We're just kind of on the same wavelength, vibrating,
learning,
learning from each other. Just like it was awesome. It was beautiful, and I'm glad that we went to lunch today. For whatever reason, it was supposed to happen, and then this was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
There you go. Universe is looking out for us, putting us together. So y'all can thank the universe. Drop to your knees, thank the universe that we're in the same room and just gave you the last hour of our life. So other than that, guys, we appreciate you taking time and listening. Again, the only reason why we do what we do is to challenge you, to make you think a little bit greater, take those action steps that's going to get you closer to that thing that you said that you want. So other than that, guys, take care, kick ass. We'll see you next week.